Welcome everyone to the Art Matrix, where arts and culture meet the dynamic worlds of business and entrepreneurship. I'm Komal Gupta, your host, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the very first part of our exciting four-part series. Our focus for this series is mental health, a topic that resonates with every woman entrepreneur and artist striving to find balance and to thrive. Each part will explore a unique theme, and today we'll be focusing on self care, which is the most essential pillar of well being. It's a point from where everything starts. To help us understand and break open the mold and different facets of this topic, we have the phenomenal Lauren Barth with us, a trailblazer in a field. Lauren brings her experiences, practical tips, and heartfelt stories about how self care has become a game changer in a personal and professional life. So, settle in as we embark on this thoughtful, inspiring, and empowering discussion that we're going to have. And welcome to the Art Matrix. And let's talk self care. So, welcome, Lauren. So happy to
Thank
have
you
you
so
back with us.
much.
Yeah. So, as a start, a little bit about yourself.
Oh, geez. I don't even know how to introduce myself anymore. So many things have changed in my life. I'm a mother too. I'm a creative person and I am an entrepreneur, having had numerous businesses over the last 10 or 11 years since I stopped working as a
Hmm.
chef, my former profession.
Hmm.
I I'm a bit of a potterer. I'm a writer, a photographer, creator, maker of things. Yeah, I'm a
Um,
person. I'm
oh,
a multifaceted human being.
I love that description. You've taken everything and put it in a few words. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So, I'll start with a very basic question. What is self care to you? Where does it start? Where does it end?
Oh, I mean, it's a simple question, but also I
Mm,
feel like I need to put a little bit of context in here because
yes.
I always used to do self-care, right? I used to,
Mm,
that we should be exercising
mm,
and we should be practicing mindfulness and we should be lots of shoulds, right? We see
mm,
successful when we see what they do and what they do becomes a list. And
mm,
I think for a very long time, self-care for me was something that I felt like I needed to do. And it came from a place of lack. Like I'm not enough or I'm not good enough or I'll
mm,
never fulfill my potential if I don't do meditation, if I don't do exercise, if I don't lift weights, if I don't, insert any self-care that you can name. It was all coming from this huge place of lack. And
mm,
since my journey like really kicked off late last year, and I've been in the work for a long time now, but it continues to evolve. And in
mm,
particular, the last year has been very transformational for me. And so
mm,
my definition of self-care and the way I think of self-care have really fundamentally changed. And now I believe self-care is self-love. Like I choose everything from a place of love. Like, how can I love myself more? And the self-care like naturally comes into that because if I love myself, of course, I want to practice mindfulness. If I love myself, of course, I want to go to that yoga class. If I love myself, of course, I'm going to do my breath work today because all of
mm,
these things make my body and my mind feel incredible. And it makes me feel like a more connected, more present, more potent version of myself. So, yeah, self care has gone from something that I should do, which came from a
mm.
lack and trying to fill a gap in myself that I perceived that I had, to now
Mhm.
it being a non-negotiable with myself as a way of loving myself.
All right. It's a wonderful summary. Now you call it non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable. So the non-negotiable part comes into your personal life and your professional life also. So how does it, carry forward to your professional life? The non-negotiable part. How does it affect it?
Yeah,
or
it's really
mm,
interesting. Like I've been really playing around with the idea of balance this year,
yeah.
which not
Uh,
something that I've traditionally done well in the past. I've
mm,
traditionally been very much in a masculine energy, and I feel like a lot
mm,
of people are these
mm,
days because of the culture and the society that we live in.
yes.
It's
Mm,
very fast paced. We live in it under the capitalist regime or capitalist. That's the system that we live in.
mm,
And it's like I've always been a very busy, very doing person, not really slowed down much during my
mm,
life. Then I
mm,
sort of went a little bit too far in the other direction, had a bit of an existential crisis, a bit of a breakdown, and just went so far into my feminine where I wasn't actually doing anything,
mhm.
like really doing anything, not even
Okay.
self-care.
Mm,
So balance has started to creep back in. And balance means that I do have some things that are non-negotiable on a daily basis because I
mm,
know on those days that I don't feel like it, that I should do it anyway. There's just a handful of things, and except in some extreme situations. If I'm very sick, I'm not going to
mm,
force myself to swim in the ocean. But for the
mm,
most part, I have these non-negotiable, beautifully balanced, like structured self-care rituals that I do every single day. And
mm,
then I also have a lot of balance in that I have flow with it. Like I can do it at any time, in any order. I don't put pressure on myself to have like a rock solid morning routine. Sometimes I execute it in the morning, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do everything
mm,
together in a row, sometimes I don't. So
mm,
whilst I think that the structure piece and the discipline piece, which is the masculine, is very important because when I'm in my
mm.
feminine, I just won't do anything.
Yes.
I
True.
also need to bring that balance in because when I get too regimented, it becomes a list again. It becomes a
Mm,
should. I have to do this and I have to do that. And that just like it sucks the live-in joy completely out of it. So
mm,
when balanced, when I have the masculine and the feminine, the structure and the flow, and I bring those two things together, like they obviously impact every element of my life. They impact the way that I show up for my children and in my personal life, with my husband, and in business as well, because I'm constantly practicing. I'm practicing finding the middle ground, finding the gray, finding the balance, finding the beautiful place where
mm,
those worlds collide. So I work
mm,
very, very differently to how I ever have before, where I just forced
mm,
myself to work, even if I didn't feel like it. And
mm,
I do work most days because I feel like it. I do love to work, but sometimes it's
mm,
very little, and sometimes I don't at all. And sometimes I
mm.
like will just make myself do a little something because I know that that's structure and discipline. I recognize when I'm falling too far into my feminine again and not
Mm,
utilizing my doing energy to actually do things.
mm. Yeah, it's very interesting that you talk about the masculine and the feminine. Masculine, you kind of relate to doing a lot of heavy work and all the tough things, and feminine is the lighter side, isn't it? And so I would like to go there from that lightness of being. Like you said, you want to join these two and become have a balance. So does it lead to a lightness of being, a lightness state, like state of flow between the masculine and the feminine? Do you feel that while you're working, while taking care of the house or your children, or while in your professional life? Does that lightness of being come into you? You feel lighter during the day?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely still a work in progress. I've
Mm,
gone from being completely unself-aware, completely in my own programming,
mm,
very out of touch with myself and my intuition. And
mm,
I've recognized a lot of change in myself very quickly. I still
mm,
fall back to old habits. I still get into those times where I'm with the kids, but I'm thinking about I need to go shopping or I need to do this work or I'm working and I'm thinking about the next thing. I do fall
yes.
into but the beautiful thing is that I've really noticed this year is I'm also noticing more and longer periods of complete presence in what I'm doing. So if I'm with the kids, I'm so joyful with them. I'm not thinking
Mm,
about what's coming up next. Like the quality of playtime that we have, where I'm just nuzzling into them and they're squealing with giggles, and I'm just not thinking about anything else. There is such a lightness and such a joy in those moments. And likewise,
Mhm.
when I work, I just work on the thing that I feel like on any given day. So if I feel like
Mm.
writing, I write. If I feel like
Mm.
taking my camera out, I take my camera out. If I feel like doing something a little bit more structured, like some bookkeeping or admin or paying
Mm.
invoices or sending invoices, those sorts of tasks.
Mm.
It's different every day, but because I am so connected with myself now, I, for the most part, know what's best going to serve me on a given day. And like I said, I do still fall back into those old patterns, but
Mhm.
the periods of time where I'm present and the quality of that presence is just so different to how it used to be. Like worlds apart, worlds apart.
All right. All right. So now this is the internal part of self-care that you're talking about. Now we come to the outer manifestations. Like I just recently read in your email newsletter that you send, you talk about using natural products, all right,
Mm.
on yourself, all right. And so that it affects your body in a good way, in a natural way. So that is also self-care, isn't it? You're taking it out from the internal, the feelings that you have into the physical world and working on it. So could you give some examples about this self-care routine using natural products? How does that work for you? How did that realization come when you've mentioned in the newsletter the chemicals and all, how they affected you when you went on to natural things? So that is also part of self-care. Something about that?
Well, self-care is a way of loving yourself, as I already sort of
Mm.
mentioned at the start. So I don't think that it's loving yourself when you put something harmful on your skin
Mm.
or in your mouth,
Mhm. Yeah.
body. So I just reached this point where I started questioning everything. I got this
Mm.
incredible curiosity that had been lacking from most of my life, where I was pretty much on autopilot and I used this deodorant because it's just what I used when I was a kid, and
Yeah. Mm.
shampoo it's on special at the supermarket. I didn't stop to question anything. And
Mm.
so this latest, I don't know, period of transformation that I've spoken of, yeah, I
Mm.
got to a point where I started to question everything. And when I realized how many chemicals were in a lot of the products I was using, and I've never really been a hugely high maintenance person, but still,
Mm.
shampoo or shower gel or soap, and then your shampoo, your conditioner, cleanser, toner, moisturizer, the hand cream, serums. There's still a dozen probably things there, and that's just in what I
Yeah.
put on my body. And it was
Mm.
all terrible, endocrine disrupting, cancer causing stuff. And sun cream, like, I don't know if anyone listening here knows this, but I don't know, something like 99% of sun creams on the
Mm.
market, some kind of cancer causing or endocrine disrupting chemicals in there
Mm.
or additives in there. It's
Mm.
terrible for us. So, yeah, I reached this point of curiosity. I started to read more into it. I started to find out what they were using in these products, and I stopped using almost everything. And so,
Mm.
I still love to take care of myself, but I don't need to do that by putting expensive things on me. Like, I feel like that's
Mm.
just another ploy by the brands and the
Yes.
businesses to have us feel like we're in lack and we're not complete and whole and beautiful without these
Mm.
things. So once I like totally stopped believing in all of that shit and felt whole and complete in myself, I
Mm.
don't need all of those lotions and potions and serums and
True.
so I do, I use a little bit of homemade sun cream if I'm out for extended periods in the middle of the day. That's the only time I wear sun cream anyway. I
Mm.
deodorant occasionally. Like, I actually used my deodorant the other day for the first time in weeks. That's homemade. That's just a really simple,
Mm-hmm.
odor neutralizing rather than antiperspirant, deodorant that I make at home. I don't use soap. I use a little bit of conditioner in the ends of my hair, maybe once a week, and it's just ocean water and the rest of the time. And that's
Right.
pretty much the
Mm.
extent of my self-care regime when it comes to physical products.
All
And
right.
I still love myself. It's actually like, yeah, people who think that loving themselves with self-care of plastering expensive, harmful things onto their body, people who
Mm.
that's love, they haven't stopped to actually think about what those products are doing to them,
Yes.
what they're
Mm.
costing them in money and what they're costing them in their health. So for me,
Mm.
self-care is not using soap.
Yeah.
Self-care, not using shampoo. Self-care is not using
Yes.
antiperspirant.
Mm. No,
Yeah.
that's really good. I mean, I'm so happy to hear about that. Another question it's just struck me, like you said, this process of self-care is, finding yourself, becoming whole. So, when you're becoming whole, is anger at certain things also self-care? When you feel,
Absolutely.
when you
Yeah,
feel,
absolutely.
I would love to hear something about that from you.
God, like a huge part of the work that I've done the last
Hmm.
year in particular has been around emotional regulation. And
Hmm.
I think that there may be in some people's minds the belief that emotional regulation means not feeling your emotions.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
actually the opposite. Like emotional regulation is allowing space for every emotion and
Yeah.
allowing them to express. Like
Hmm.
emotions are energy. They are physically felt in your body. When anger comes to visit me, it is a powerful force inside of my chest. It's like it's a
Hmm.
pushing outward energy, and it's hard to describe, but it I can't not do or say something when I'm angry. And in the
Hmm.
past, especially being a woman, I would just swallow it down, swallow that anger and keep it in my body. But now if
Hmm.
I feel angry, I acknowledge that sometimes anger can visit me not for any particular reason, like nobody
Hmm.
said or anything. There's no circumstance that has caused anger, the emotion, the energy to visit me. It's just
Hmm.
in my space. So I allow it to be in my space. I allow myself to feel it. And when it comes to expressing it, if I don't want to project it onto the person close to me, which is not good for my relationship because that's my husband, if I don't want to do that, as I used to in the past, I do things like angry dancing. Like I've got a playlist on my phone with like Rage Against the Machine, and like punching your arm, really flailing your arms gets anger up and out. And sometimes I
Hmm.
feel screaming, and I'll go to the ocean and I'll hop under a wave and I'll just be like, "Ah," and just
Okay.
all come out of me. And
Hmm.
it's interesting, like a huge part as well of my work has been creating more space between my thoughts and the awareness of the thoughts. So when I feel angry, like when the emotion of anger has visited me, I very easily latch onto thoughts of things that make me feel angry. So they go hand in hand, the thought and the emotion. So then the thought will
Hmm.
come, Emmanuel didn't do this yesterday. That's my husband. And it's really easy to just let that thought drag me in and find a place for that anger to go, the hot potato.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, I don't want this
Yes.
anger back onto
Hmm.
Emmanuel. Like, you
Hmm.
did this thing yesterday and I'm really angry about it. But
Hmm.
it's actually not. Like most of the time, it's actually not. So I feel the anger in my body. I watch the thought and how it wants to project and come out of me and hot potato onto somebody else. I don't allow that to happen usually.
Hmm.
So and sometimes work in progress. And then
Hmm.
I will ask the anger, the expression of anger in my body, how it wishes to be acknowledged and how I can express it. And then I will do one
Hmm.
of practices, one of these almost like somatic type practices. Like, how do you need to be expressed? Is it screaming underwater? Is it angry dancing? What is it? And then I'll do that.
Hmm. All right. That was quite interesting, and it was inspiring for me because I deal with anger in a different way. I swallow it, think
Mm.
about it, just make myself calm. So I should be letting it out. But does anger, again, you said you process it in this way, somatic techniques and all. Does it lead to a change in self-care?
Absolutely.
It,
Yeah,
it
like
leads to change.
well, what my experience has been with learning
Hmm.
emotional regulation is I've created safety now inside my body.
Hmm.
So when I wake up, or if I've had a period of being unaware throughout the day and I come to and realize there's something
Hmm.
stirring up in my body, emotion is physically felt. Like it's a physical experience in the body. There are hormones being
Hmm.
produced by your body that have you
Yes.
feel a certain way inside of your body. So it's really
Hmm.
important that people understand that emotion is felt. And when
Hmm.
it's felt, depending on how you were first taught how to work through those big feelings in your body as a child, that tends to create a lot of other stuff in your mind. So it's not the emotion that's making things difficult for you in that moment. It's your perception of the emotion, your
Hmm.
story about the emotion, and the meaning that you give the emotion. So,
Hmm.
shame has been like a really interesting one for me this year. When shame visits me,
Hmm.
sometimes for no reason, sometimes it's just present in my space, or sometimes something has happened to sort of trigger shame to come up inside of me. Oh, shame feels so uncomfortable. Like it feels, oh, it's very, I get very downcast. Like my whole body tends to slump. I get into a freeze state, like my nervous system responds to shame as well. And I've noticed
Hmm.
those two things are very connected. My thoughts get into a very, like very narrow-minded, black and white, very negative thought patterns and thoughts are happening. And it just feels heavy. My heart feels heavy. My gut feels heavy. I feel very disconnected from my body. There's just something going on in there that I can't shake. So
Hmm.
I used to, again, like I used to sit with all of this and
Hmm.
swallow it and or ignore it or distract myself from it, pick up the phone, pick up Netflix, pick a fight with my partner. And so we didn't have to talk for a couple of days. Like, so I could just sit in my misery
Hmm.
with it. But now I recognize that all emotions, they want to pass a message along to you and they wish to be
Hmm.
acknowledged and they wish to be expressed. So I do emotional regulation work every day when I do my journaling practice.
Hmm.
And whatever comes up. And because I've been doing this practice for more than a year now, I've felt everything. I've felt the anger, I've felt the sadness, I've felt grief, I've felt shame, I've felt guilt, I've felt
Hmm.
disappointment, frustration on many, many different occasions. I've also felt gratitude and love and happiness and peace and all of these beautiful positive emotions as well. And I now know what they feel like. I don't try to avoid them because I know that I'm safe no matter what happens. I know that there's safety to be found in my body. And the faster I let myself go into literally walk into the discomfort and allow it
Hmm.
to press and pass, the faster I am literally past it. And every day I go to the beach, it's one of my non-negotiables each day. Every day I journal and every day I do breath work. And between those three practices, I can't hide from myself. So those days when something's come up and you just want to be miserable, you just want to sit in it. And you might even have like this little thing in your mind, like, I know I'm being stupid and like I don't have to choose this, but you just want to anyway.
Yes.
On those days, I can't, like the worst, on a really, really bad self-sabotaging day where I'm like, by all means necessary, trying to sink into it and like just really hate myself for a little minute that day. It's all part of the human experience. The
Hmm.
worst thing that I will do is I'll go to the beach late because the beach, it gets dark here around 6:30. So the latest I can go to the
Okay.
beach really is like 6 o'clock. So on a really,
Hmm.
really bad day, I'll go to the beach at 6 o'clock. I'll
Hmm.
swim, I'll do my breath work, and half an hour later, I'll be like, "You idiot! Like, why didn't you go to the beach at 9 a.m.? Why did you didn't have to sit through the whole day, like going through that." So yeah, it's
Hmm.
interesting. I always joke like the longest period of time that I can ever sink into like these self-sabotaging, self-hate patterns is less than 24 hours because I know that the beach is my non-negotiable. It's one of my like real pillars of my self-care. So yeah, it's interesting. I've created so much safety in my body from doing these things, and yeah, most of the time it's just yeah, it's
Hmm.
there. It's I don't have to get into the story. I don't have to make any meaning out of it. I recognize all
Hmm.
the thoughts that are attached to the different emotions. I recognize where my nervous system goes and how that's attached to the emotions and how they all interplay. And I just
Hmm.
work through them. And it can happen very quickly. Like
Hmm.
the darkest shame to like deep gratitude and love and happiness in my day and in a very short period of time. And I haven't ignored it or suppressed it or stifled it
Hmm.
down or distracted myself from it. I've like literally just let it be there, let it be
All
there
right.
and be
All
safe
right.
in it.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, Lauren. That was quite a descriptive account of what you've been going through and all the practices that you do. And I think for each person, it's a separate journey. Sorry. It's it depends upon oneself and how to take that. And you've taken it in a very, uh, I think it's self-directed. You don't have any, do you have any guideposts that you have while on this journey, or is it all self-directed?
I mean, I've done a lot of personal development and different things
Hmm.
resonate at different times, as you
Hmm.
probably know. I
Hmm.
remember when I was pregnant with William, so it must have been about 3 years ago, I did a
Hmm.
personal development event and we started to really deep dive into emotions. And the
Hmm.
facilitator of the event basically said, if you don't allow yourself to feel
Hmm.
the negative emotions, you will never reach the heights of the positive emotions.
All
And that
right.
really, really struck me because I
Hmm.
was who had never really allowed myself to feel joyful and playful.
Hmm.
I'd never really, yeah, I'd never really let myself get too happy. And I later uncovered all these stories I had around the fact that, if you get too happy, something's going to knock you down. I had these beliefs.
Hmm.
And so there was other stuff tied up in it. But I just thought,
Hmm.
I don't want to be somebody going through the human experience, only half feeling things. So
Hmm.
that just sort of sat with me. And when I put together my journaling practice, which is a creation of my own, and like I said, I've been using it for 15 months.
Hmm.
Emotional regulation had to go in there because I wanted to start to recognize how these emotions felt in my body and take away a lot of the mystery of them. But it
Hmm.
feels everything that we experience as humans, it feels so mysterious. But when I sit down and do this really intentional practice
Hmm.
every day, I recognize I'll be like slumped over and going to the beach all mopey and like not knowing what's wrong. And, I've just
Hmm.
eaten way too much chocolate and I'm feeling guilty about that. And I'll sit down on the beach and I'll start journaling
Hmm.
and like, okay, so there's shame present in my body. And
Hmm.
it's like it magnetizes other things to make you feel like emotions magnetize other things to make you feel the same way.
Sure.
So if I'm
Hmm.
feeling guilty, I'll start to magnetize circumstances that will have me stay in that state. So if I'm already feeling guilty for whatever reason, maybe I feel bad because I didn't bath the kids the night before. I was late in my cycle and I had no energy. I didn't bath the kids. I've woken up feeling guilty. And then I've like
Hmm.
broken my fast early and eaten something that I normally wouldn't eat. And it's just all these little guilty things start stacking on top of each other to keep me stuck in that
Hmm.
emotion experience. And then I'll journal and I'll be like, okay, so that's where I'm at. That's the emotion that I'm feeling. How do I
Hmm.
acknowledge it? How do I express it? And how do I let it pass? And then it just goes away and I'm back to peace.
All right. Now, listening to you makes me realize that while doing anything or everything, we are a universe in our own, the reality. I think it's a circle around us, emotions, the circumstances that you said that come up, and how we deal with them and how we become at peace with ourselves. So that's the feeling that I get when I talk about self-care with you. Your definition is totally different from what is given out on social media. Social
Mm.
media is just quotes, and what you have been through is a roller coaster of a journey to get to the point where you are right now. Uh, so, before we end, a small quote or a book you would recommend? Again, I'm digressing from your journey, but something to end with. I mean,
Oh, there's so many good ones out there.
hmm,
Really depends on where people are at.
hmm,
Some of the biggest things that I've done this year for myself are I've become like really deeply interested in cycles. So the lunar cycle, the menstrual cycle, the seasonal cycles, life cycles. I'm reading a book at the moment called Period Power, which I think all women should read. The way that our cycle can impact our emotional state and even our nervous system. Like, this should be required reading for all girls who are starting to menstruate. It's actually
hmm,
incredible the changes that our bodies go through and obviously reach menopause. So that's been really significant for me this year to start bringing that piece in. I also love I've got this kids book called A Dictionary of Emotions, and I brought it for my daughter, but
hmm,
I poured over it when I first got it because it had these definitions of emotion and how they're felt in the body that for the
hmm,
first time you start to really join the dots between the idea that emotion is a physical experience. So A Dictionary
hmm.
of Emotions is a really good one. What else? What else? What else? I feel like we've barely
Yeah.
scratched the surface of this topic. I mean, I read a book called Breath recently as well by James Nestor. And I think
Mm,
breath and the quality of breath has a very significant impact on our state, our mental state. I think a
mm,
lot of people out there in
sure.
the world aren't breathing correctly, and it's impacting their nervous system,
Mm,
particular, pushing them into fight or flight and really exacerbating this sense of urgency and busyness that so many people are
mm,
plagued. So
mm,
anything to do with breath, I read Wim Hof recently as well. And then I'd have to recommend the two, I think all-time classics in the personal development space. And they would be The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and
mhm.
Eckhart Tolle wrote A New Earth. It's a really good one to start with.
Right.
So
Mm,
yeah, that's
yeah.
more than you asked for, but it's such a rabbit
Mm,
hole. I actually do have something else to add. You said that the definition of self-care on social media is very different. And I think as well, like with a lot of books that are written, especially stuff around self-care and routines and rituals, and there's whole books about morning routines and how to wake
mm,
up, be the best version of yourself. Like I actually think that these things are very well intentioned, but I think that they're very harmful because everybody has different responsibilities and obligations in their life. Not everybody has time for a morning routine. Not everybody has
true.
time for all of these self-care rituals, and not everybody
Mhm,
the same thing. Like,
mhm,
even if I were to write a book and outlay every single thing I did every day and somebody were to follow it, they may not get the same results as me because so much of self-care is personal connection. I know what I need because I am in myself. I'm in my body. I'm connected. I've come back into my body after years outside of it, years up here in my head, and my energy floating away everywhere, and other people's energy coming in. And now that I'm back in my body, I know I need breath work. This practice works for me. I need
mm,
journal, a very logical aspect of my mind that, my journal that I created, there was nothing else I could find on the market. I made my own. It's not for sale. I can't even like promote it because I'm not selling it yet, but I will
all
be.
right. Mm,
These practices work really well for me, and I
mm,
don't necessarily do them in the morning time. I do them when they fit in with my life and with my schedule. I go inwards every day and I ask myself what I need. So I do have non-negotiables. I need the structure and I need the discipline. And I do have a lot of flow. Like I love yoga. I don't do yoga every day, but I try to do it 4 or 5 times a week. And I know what
mm,
I need yoga because I get like myself tells myself that.
yeah.
So the
No.
more the
Mm,
advice, like the more you can get in touch with yourself, the more you can be embodied and intuitive and know yourself, the more these things will fall into place. The self-love will fall into place. The knowing, I still get distracted, I still get unfocused. On those days, it's get to the beach as soon as possible. So I know that gets me back into my body. So try to be, by all means necessary, in touch with yourself, in sync with yourself, aligned with yourself and your highest values. And from there, you can choose and you'll choose correctly. Like we are all such divine, knowing beings. Like we know exactly what we need, but this mind just gets in the way of it all.
yeah, true.
So try to
True.
create space. Try to create space.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Lauren. You explained it and ended everything so beautifully. Uh, Divine beings, knowing ourselves. I have nothing more to add. Thank you so much for sharing today. And I look forward to having you in the next part of our series. Till then, bye and see you soon, Lauren.
See you soon.